Today, I'm going to show you how to use your bevel like a paintbrush. That's coming up. Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Reeks. This is Weaver Leather Supply. Today, not only are we going to be talking about how to use your bevel more effectively, but I'm also going to show you something that once you start using it in your tooling, it can really help take you to the next level. Now, when we start out tooling, we all start out using the same bevel, right? It's got just a little bit of a slant on it. It's usually chrome looking. It's got a checkered pattern on it most of the time. Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more out there in the way of bevels than the traditional bevel. You've got the traditional bevel, you've got steep, extra steep, round, triangle, checker, line, smooth. We haven't even gotten into the figure carving bevels or the custom ones yet. And each one of those bevels does something different. If you start to think about your bevels like a paintbrush, it'll make a lot more sense. So would you expect this brush to be able to do the same thing that this brush could do? They're not the same, they're not equal, they're not going to have the same strengths and weaknesses. Well, bevels are the exact same thing. Why in the world would you expect this bevel to be able to do what that bevel can do, or vice versa? So if each one has its own strengths and weaknesses, let's use them for that. With that, we can go ahead and jump into the project. Prep steps are already done. We got a link in the description if you need a little bit more information on that. But otherwise, let's go ahead and cut it in. Now we can start the beveling. The first brush that I'm going to use is that one that gives me the best definition to the design, which means I'm going to grab my steep bevels, and I'll be alternating between the small, medium, and large throughout the pattern. Remember, the smaller the stamp, the less pressure you're going to need to make it work. Go slow, make sure you're overlapping the bevels by about 50%. Notice that I fade out that beveling the closer I get to the center of the flower. Just lighten up on the taps with your maul. By the time you get to the center, you should barely be tapping the stamp. Sometimes you're going to have to start at the center. Just reverse the process. The tap should be really light to start off with and get heavier as you go. At this point in the project, the beveling looks pretty good. We could totally leave those petals just like they are, not do any more beveling to them, and they'd be fine. But there's a couple of things that we can do that'll really help it pop off the page more. If we think of it as foreground, midground, and background, the petals are going to be in the foreground, the buds are going to be in the midground, and the leaves are going to be in the background. That means that the petals should have the most definition and really pop off the page, the buds a little less, and the stems even less. So for the stems, I'm just going to use a traditional bevel. It's not as steep and it creates more of a shadow. Let's go ahead and pop in the flower center. Now we can grab that traditional bevel again, but this time I'm going to use it to create shadows. Pretty much anywhere a petal is going to overlap another petal, I'm going to run my traditional bevel over that again. What that's going to do is going to give us a really crisp edge, and we're going to get that wider shadow. Remember how we said there's different types of bevels and one of them's a triangle? Well, this is a situation where it's going to come in really handy. Most of us are familiar with pedal lifters and that lift that they create, but what about those really tight corners? What do you do with those? Well, really compressing the leather in those areas can add a lot of depth. So if we take our triangle shaped bevel and we match up the point with the corner, we can get into that really tight spot. But if we tip the bevel up on its point, now we're really going to be compressing that leather and creating the illusion of a cavity behind the petals, which in turn gives us the illusion of depth. One of the last things that we're going to do is add in the background. The reason that this is so important is not only does it add depth, but it also allows us to blend that bevel shadow. The last type of beveling that we're going to be doing is with our modeling spoons. First, I'm going to go in and lightly sculpt some details in on the leaves. Then I'm going to use the same exact tool to create the shape on the buds. I didn't bevel these because I wanted them to look like they were further away in the background, but the modeling spoon, that's going to help us create the shape without giving us a lot of detail, which is exactly what we want. By focusing on our beveling, we were able to put the petals in the foreground, then the buds, then the leaves. I hope you were able to pick up something helpful. Try to put this into practice in your tooling in the future. That's going to do it for this video. I will see you in the next one. And in the meantime, go make something amazing.